Welcome everyone to the second budget town hall meeting here in the City School District of Albany. This is a new process for us. Normally we spend this time of the year going around to neighborhood association meetings and PTA meetings and pretty much anyone who'll have us to talk about the budget. But given the situation with COVID-19, there are not so many public opportunities for us to do that. So we've elected for this year to host several town hall meetings where people can get their questions answered. I'm actually very pleased to see us moving in this direction, and I'm quite confident that we will move in this direction for future budgets. Because it's a wonderful thing for the It's my honor this morning to introduce our two moderators, both of whom I have admired very much over the last many years that I've lived in Albany, and I appreciate so much their willingness to give their time today. First of all, I want to acknowledge Gwen Pope, who is the Vice President of the Albany branch of the NAACP, and who is a former compliance specialist with the New York State Homes and Community Renewal, which is the state's affordable housing agency. Thank you so much for being with us, Ms. Pope.
Thank you.
Secondly, Ms. Arbetter, who is well known to anyone who follows media in the Albany area. She is the host of Capital Tonight for Spectrum News, and of course, a veteran journalist with extensive experience in public radio and television. And she is a member of the Women's Press Club of New York Hall of Fame. So I'm going to turn the microphone back over now to Ms. Pope, who will lead us through this meeting. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Thank you for that kind introduction, President Savage. It is our pleasure to moderate the City School District of Albany's budget hearing this morning. I would like to begin by acknowledging the members of the Board of Education who have been working hard on this. President Savage, who you just heard from, Vice President Vicki Smith, Secretary Tabitha Wilson, Board Member Cherie Dar Chatour, Board Member Hassan El Menyawi, Board Member Ellen Krejci, Board Member Damaris Mann, Superintendent Kawita Adams, and the members of the district's cabinet are also present this morning to discuss the budget proposal and respond to your questions. We will begin our meeting with a message from President Savage. Following that, we will turn things over to Superintendent Adams and Deputy Superintendent for Business and Finance, Kimberly Roaring, to take us through the budget presentation.
Following the presentation, which you can see right on your screen, we're going to go through the questions that you've submitted to us in advance and allow Superintendent Adams and the district staff to provide answers. Once district staff have answered all of those questions, we're going to respond to any live questions that you are submitting during the meeting via the district's Google form. And all you need to do is, if you're here, just go to albanyschools.org/questions and submit your question. And the district is committed to responding to as many of these questions as possible in the time allotted for today's meeting, which is supposed to wrap up at about 11. There's another meeting next Saturday as well. So to get us started, we would like to welcome back President Ann Savage.
Thank you so much. If we could advance the slide, I think it will help people follow my remarks. My role here as the president of the board is to give people a sense of the big picture of the budget. I'll then turn it over to the superintendent and the deputy superintendent to walk you through the details. But there's some really big things that people need to understand in order to understand how this budget was constructed and how the realities on the ground are impacting the City School District of Albany. The first thing for people to know is that over the last 2 years, we have had a 5% enrollment decrease. That is a big change because for many years our enrollment was climbing. But over the last 2 years, it has declined about 5% in total. That is an unusual situation for us, and we are mitigating it as best we can. Also, typically, as this year, as in every year, we have increased expenses. Everything gets more expensive every year, including paying our wonderful staff who are entitled to, and we try to provide with a good salary and increases per their contract. Also this year, unexpectedly, our state aid is much lower than we thought. Normally, these things have a sort of pattern to them. The governor releases an executive budget in January, and almost without fail, by the time the state budget is adopted in April, the amount of state aid for schools increases. This year, the amount of state aid was slashed between January and the adopted budget as a result of the COVID-19 impact on our state economy. So we have much less state aid than we expected, and it's extremely possible, it's highly likely, I would guess, that we're going to have even less state aid in the future than we think now because of additional reductions that have been discussed, but not actually implemented from the state level. All of you know that we have very limited reserve funds in the school district. Unlike a town, a village, or a city, we can only carry a very small amount of reserve funds. It's 4% of next year's budget. That is a very low amount, much lower than I actually think is comfortable, but that is what is allowed by law. And we have to be very careful with those reserve funds because we all expect that this economic downturn is going to carry us through several years. This is not going to be a one-year problem. Also, of course, this has been an extremely difficult and unusual process because the budget process had started in January as per normal before the COVID-19 closure. So many executive orders came out that affected not just how schools operate, but how we do the budget, including up to and including the mail-in budget vote that was announced earlier. As a result of all of this, we are proposing a budget that includes significant non-staffing and staffing reductions. That is extraordinarily hard and extraordinarily painful. We know that all of our students need everything in our budget this year. We know that that's what they need, but we also understand the fiscal situation on the ground, which is that we do not have enough money to continue to do what we had been doing. In addition to reductions, we've also proposed a 1.96% tax levy increase that is at our state tax cap. And it is the 7th year in a row that the proposed increase is less than 2%. Albany taxpayers know that our property taxes are high. All of the board members and many of the cabinet members live in the city. We know that the property taxes are a real problem. We've done every single thing we can over the last 7 years to keep property taxes under control. The average is about 1% a year, and that is really been possible because we have had a good support from New York State as they've increased our state aid over the last couple of years. So that's how I wanted to set the introduction. Those are the big blocks around which the staff had to work as they constructed this budget.
Good morning, President Savage, members of the board, and thank you to our two moderators. We're so very happy to have you with us today, Ms. Pope and Mrs. Arbetter. Thank you so very much for facilitating this process. At this time, Deputy Superintendent Kimberly Roaring and myself, we will go through the information with regard to our budget, and this is the adopted budget from the Board of Education. We always start with our vision, mission, and goals, because despite the challenging times, we always want to stay focused on how our decisions are made, that they are made thoughtfully, and that we are always looking at our goals of increasing student achievement, ensuring that we are delivering quality instruction to our students, no matter what format it may be in, building our leadership capacity and increasing accountability, looking at different ways now of incorporating that empowerment of our families so that they can support the success of their children. And now more than ever, looking at how we can partner with our diverse community as we move forward into territory that there is no blueprint, there is no pattern or pathway for us. We are creating it as we go along, and then developing and making sure that we are providing the best education for all of our students. The purpose of our budget town hall meetings is to make sure that we are sharing out the budget proposal that the Board of Education adopted for the 2021 school year, and also to make sure that we are providing numerous opportunities for our community to ask questions. So I will move forward through our presentation at this time, and we want to talk about what our budget supports, even though we have some challenging times ahead. Our projected budget, while it has been challenging, has been developed in a manner which looks best to serve our children. We truly understand that the proposed budget calls for all of us to view the services that we provide for our children and families in a very different way. Many times we look at scheduling options, we're looking at blended learning model options, facilitating the adjustments to the delivery of instruction, our programs and wraparound services alike, all will be considered as we move forward. We look to ensure that our funding allocations and resources are aligned to the needs of our children. Over the past several years, we have invested in professional development to address not only the academic needs of our children, but the social and emotional well-being aspects of our children's development is very important. As we move forward, we look to embed the practices while developing innovative strategies around those wraparound services and community partnerships to support our staff as well as our families in addressing our roles differently, and also helping our community understand what different really means. Our philosophy remains that we as a district want to engage our learners in a robust educational program designed to provide the knowledge and skills necessary for success. We have found innovative ways of making connections with our children so that while we are apart, we are also together. Our students, teachers, and administrators have been instrumental in providing feedback through our perspectives in online learning, various feedback surveys, and our professional development surveys. We are truly all in this together, and our proposed budget looks at the integration of best practices through supported models and shared services. The adjustments we have proposed may be modified along the way to provide flexibility based on the number of details that may occur in the future, which have an impact on our decisions both internally and externally. As stated throughout this process, our budget year has been challenging and has been compounded by many additional expenses associated with situations beyond our control. However, we remain committed to focusing on providing our students with a quality learning environment which will be adapted to meet their needs and the needs of our families. At this time, Deputy Superintendent Roaring will now share the 2020-21 Board of Education adopted budget.
Good morning. On your screen, you see the 2020-21 Board of Education adopted budget, which was adopted on May 14th. In the first column, you'll see the 2019-20 adopted budget, and then the 2021 board approved budget is in the middle column, and the far right column is our difference. Many of the expenditures that drove this budget are benefits, in-district to or out-of-district tuition, charter school tuition, transportation, contractual obligations, and our debt service expense, for a total increase of $1.2 million. We look at the revenue by category. It includes a property tax levy of 1.96%. We also saw increases in interest, fees, and reimbursements, state aid of a little bit over $1 million, and use of restricted reserves in next year's budget for a revenue increase of $1.2 million. When we look at our budget increase drivers for the rollover budget, that was largely attributable to the annual contractual salary increases of our staff, benefits, and charter school and out-of-district tuition, for a total rollover budget increase of just over $15 million.
In those reductions, we have basically two categories that we started to look at when we were looking at where those areas were that we would be able to make some adjustments moving forward. And so we started with our non-staffing reductions. And in our non-staffing reductions, this is where we looked at what were some of the areas that we could make modifications in with regard to ordering of supplies, purchasing of equipment. We looked at athletics, looking at the life cycle, moving to a 4-year life cycle versus a 3-year life cycle, which is still within the guidelines of our equipment needs, looking at routine supplies and things like that, that we could streamline those purchases. We also looked at funding that goes to each school to do some of the recognition programs and the different awards that students may be receiving. And so we did look to decrease those funds, but even in decreasing those funds, we've looked at other funding streams through our grants and title monies that we may be able to use to take care of some of those discretionary fund needs that schools may have. In looking at field trips, we've done the same thing. We've been able to reduce the impact on the general fund. However, we have looked at other funding streams. There are different grants that are coming about now due to the blended learning environment that we are in, where we can research different types of field trips, be they virtual field trips or things like that, where we have funding through a different stream that we can do that. So we were comfortable in looking at reducing the impact on the general fund with regard to field trips, but not reducing those experiences that students may be able to have. They just may be done in a different way. We looked at our contractual services, and so some of our consultants and some of the additional professional development that impacts the general fund, we looked at reductions there. And again, we know that we have different grants that, and grant funds and title funds that we may be able to use for professional development, but we have taken a stance for the upcoming school year that any professional development that impacts the general fund, we would not be engaging in that. So that would be a reduction to contracted services through the general fund. We are looking at eliminating the expense component of our NYU EMAT program, which has been beneficial to our district. This is a way in which current employees can work toward a master's degree while still remaining employed and earn a master's degree towards teaching. And because that program is valued and we do see some success with that program, we are looking at maintaining the program in and of itself, but through our partnership with NYU, the expense portion, which impacts the general fund, will be eliminated. And then we looked at the reduction of one school resource officer, and we are looking at different scheduling patterns for the other 3 school resource officers that we currently have. Now we'll move to our staffing reductions. These were areas where we looked at first attrition. We looked at what those staffing positions might be that we would be able to either combine or have shared services. And in looking at the reduction in our enrollment to make sure that we are looking at that proportionality of student to teacher ratio, we noticed that our enrollment has been dropping over the past few years, and we wanted to make sure that we were able to align our staffing as such. The reductions in some of our general education classroom positions, such as our teaching assistants, behavioral specialists, those positions, we are looking at a shared services model for that. Reducing in our instructional coaches, eliminating second grade swim program, adjustments to our elementary instructional music program. We were able to actually make it happen, as we have been discussing over the past few meetings, that our instrumental program is not going away. We are moving it to the 4th grade where we will start that. And so our current 3rd graders, when they go to 4th grade, there would not be a gap for those instructional music courses. They would be able to continue in the 4th grade. But then moving forward, it will start in the 4th grade versus the 3rd grade. And then we made adjustments to our current freshman sports. And our freshmen, not that they won't be able to participate, they will be able to participate, but we're looking at them participating at the junior varsity level. And so those were some of the adjustments that we made with regard to staffing. Our next slide looks at this in a pictorial sense of what are the ratios as they align with enrollment. And when we look at the staffing and the enrollment ratios for our current year, our staffing ratios were low. Next year, our staffing ratio at the classroom level is proposed at 9.38 to 1, which is almost identical to last year, the 2018-2019 school year. And it's considerably better than previous years. Because of strong state aid, this was relatively a good year. We were able to add staff last year despite having fewer students. This was beneficial because we could facilitate more direct services and delivery models for our students in smaller ratios. So in terms of the total workforce, our ratios are proportionate across our employee groups. The proposed staffing reductions represent about 8% of the district's total workforce. Administrative positions would be reduced by 7.2% of the current workforce in that employee group, which is about 5 out of 69 positions. Teaching staff and related positions would be reduced by 7.5% of the current workforce in that employee group, which is about 73 teachers and related positions out of 982. Support staff positions would be reduced by 8.9% of the current workforce in that employee group, which is about 59 positions out of 665. And then management, confidential, and other staff would be reduced by 4.4% of the current workforce. And in those areas, that would be 4.5 positions of about 102 positions. So when we look at our 2021 budget, we'd like to focus on what are those things with all of these reductions, what are those things that we are going to be able to maintain as we talk about being able to provide that equitable, robust learning environment for our students. So our decisions have been grounded in trying to maintain the level of programming and services required to address the supports of our diverse students and community. Our budget proposal looks to adjust methodologies and enhance student achievement and the social and emotional well-being of our students and the delivery of quality instruction in a fiscally responsible manner. We're committed to maintaining full-day kindergarten programs, pre-kindergarten programs, for about 1,000 of our 3- and 4-year-old students, while including the reduction of 2 off-site classrooms. We are maintaining 3 magnet elementary schools, our dual language program also at Delaware Community School. Due to the professional development provided through our instructional supervisors, we have been able to embed STEM and STEAM-focused initiatives at all levels so that project-based learning, even in an online platform, may be actualized. We will continue to actualize equity in our technology innovation efforts as we work endlessly to close the digital divide through strategic access of Chromebooks and hotspots to provide access and opportunity for our more than 8,000 students. We are maintaining music instruction K-12 through general music, recorder, band, chorus, and orchestra. However, instrumental music will begin at the 4th grade level. We will continue to serve 57 athletic teams, including more than 1,100 students in grades 7 through 12, with our 9th graders being able to participate at the junior varsity level. We're also maintaining our community schools model and initiatives at 7 schools. A community school provides academic, health, and social services to students and families before, during, and after school. While the delivery will include a blended delivery model, we will continue to work creatively within the community schools model to support our students and our families. We are looking at scheduling options to maintain advanced placement for our students. I don't know how many of you know that within the Capital Region, Albany High offers more advanced placement courses than any schools in the Capital Region area. We are looking at scheduling options to maintain our International Baccalaureate program and the University in the High School courses at Albany High. In addition, we are able to maintain all of our career and technical education pathways at a Brooklyn Career and Technical Center. We have ensured that our students with disabilities and our English language learners have the accommodations needed to modify assignments and the technological support through teleservices, telemedicine, teletherapy, and translators to be able to support their progress in both a traditional setting and an online setting. We continue to support the growth and development of our faculty and staff through culturally relevant teaching and learning practices, trauma-informed care, and restorative practices. In addition, some of the work is done behind the scenes by administrators and support personnel. This work is also important, but many times it is invisible to most. The differentiated wraparound services and support provided to teachers and staff work in concert to support the delivery of quality instruction. This comprehensive support has a direct impact on student achievement by establishing a foundation and culture of growth and progress as seen in increased student performance over the past few years. We know that we have continued work to do on behalf of our students and families. We are committed to making the necessary adjustments for their success. The 2021 school year has many unknowns. The guidelines regarding reopening, social distancing, blended classrooms, online learning, in-person gatherings, cleaning, sanitization of our buildings, student attendance, transportation, athletics, and extracurricular activities will look different for us as we approach the new school year. But one aspect is consistent, and that aspect is our students. Addressing the diverse needs of our students will be at the forefront of our thoughts and processes while we balance accomplishing these goals with the social and emotional support for our students and families. At this time, Ms. Roaring will address the unknowns that we face moving forward.
So as we look at the start of the next school year, we are evaluating what those procedures and systems may be for reopening our schools to students and staff. We have faced the potential for state funding to be reduced during our school year as part of the 2021 state executive budget. There are 3 look-back periods. One has ended on April 30th, one will end on June 30th, and one will come up in the middle of our school year at the end of December. We are anticipating that there would be state revenue changes for the school district as we move through the year. In the media, some of those estimates have come out at 5 to 20%, which for Albany would mean $4 to $16 million of additional reductions. If the budget does not pass on June 9th, the board could consider a second budget vote for the public at a cost of approximately $150,000. The executive order does not provide for the timeline to complete that second budget vote. If a second vote fails, or if the board elects not to put out a second budget to the public for adoption, we would move to a contingent budget. That would require the district to have a flat tax levy amount or reductions of an additional $2.3 million in our expenditures for next year. We would only be able to do those items that are absolutely required to operate and maintain our schools. We would not be able to purchase any necessary equipment. However, that would not affect our instructional hardware for students. Outside building use could not occur at any expense to the taxpayers, so we would need to fully assess the cost impact of use of our facilities. Those invoices would need to be sent out to the individuals or organizations looking to use our facility, and they would have to prepay before they would be able to come in and use those buildings.
We are looking at the next piece of information, which looks at items on the ballot as our voters are preparing to vote via the absentee method. When you look at your ballot, there will be 2 propositions. The first proposition deals with the actual budget, and that reads, shall the resolution adopted by the Board of Education on May 14, 2020, authorizing the City School District of Albany to expend the sum in the amount of $261,568,188 during the 2020-21 school year, and to levy a tax, therefore be approved. The second proposition, shall the Board of Education resolution approved on April 2nd, 2020, be authorized to acquire for school operating needs approximately 0.14 plus or minus acres of land located within tax parcel 76.61-4-54 in the city of Albany, state of New York, located near Delaware Community School, at a cost not to exceed $13,300, plus any and all customary closing costs, to be paid from the available Capital Reserve Fund balance. In addition to those 2 propositions, we have 1 board member seat up for election for the Board of Education. There are 3 candidates on the ballot: Victor Kane, Hassan Al-Minyawe, who is the incumbent, and Edith Leet. In addition to the City School District of Albany, on this ballot, we also have the library trustees, which you will vote for 2. And the candidates are Jessica Ballarin, Donna Dixon, Jeffrey Keller, Thomas McCarthy Jr., who is the incumbent, Catherine McNamara, James Monroe, and Bridget Pryor. It is important to note that Kwesi Burgess withdrew his nominating petition after the ballots were printed, so his name will appear on the ballot. However, he has withdrawn his nominating petition. At this time, we will pause so that we can take your questions, and I'll turn it back over to the moderators.
Thank you so much, Superintendent. It is time for your questions. This is a tough budget. There are several proposition questions. If you do have questions that you want to ask of the administrators, just write them up at albanyschools.org/questions, and we'll try to get to them in about 15 minutes. We're going to start now with questions that were submitted to us in advance. And your questions here have been grouped by category, and district staff will respond to every individual topic that's being submitted. And in the interest of time, if there are multiple questions asking about the same topic, we're going to read one of those questions and the district staff will respond. So even if you don't hear your exact question read during the meeting, the district will be addressing every topic that is asked about. So we had 6 questions in advance for this morning's forum, and we're going to start with Gwen.
Okay, so our first 2 questions relate to staffing. I would like to direct our first question to Superintendent Adams. How exactly do administrators build home-school relationships? Those relationships are built by teachers, not administrators.
So thank you, Ms. Pope, for that question. And I know this is a question that we've had several times along these lines. And there is no doubt that teachers contribute to the building those relationships between home and school. However, administrators and support staff do as well. And so we're looking at that comprehensive approach to how do we all contribute to building those relationships between home and school. And this is not to say that any one group is better than the other, as all positions and all groups have value in the district. In the context of administrators building relationships, specifically, building leaders set the tone of the school and the vision, which in essence lays the foundation for that homeschool relationship. It takes everyone in the building doing their part to build those positive relationships with our families. Administrators work alongside teachers to structure those so that those relationships can flourish. And their work is evident in the structure of how we approach our families. What are the supports that we put in place? Our building leadership teams, how they operate, how parents' voices are heard through the PTA, through the PTSA, supportive activities and recognitions for their students, and how we receive our students through different learning modalities, the development and coordination of those wraparound services and the resources that our family needs that sometimes extend the school day that many people don't see right away. We see the instruction happening. We engage with our teachers and our support staff regularly, but there are those wraparound pieces and resources that administrators are just essential to as we look to partner with our community. We have our volunteer programs, building that support, how we coordinate with our mental health agencies, trauma support and training that teachers and support staff may need. Administrators assist with that facilitating of that. When we have food resources where our students need to have food delivered to them, that work is done by multiple people, and administrators are largely behind that organization, so that once that happens and those connections are made, then we have the other roles that participate in that actual delivery and making that connection. Working with our mentors and our tutors, our summer programs, all of those types of things that we do beyond the school building, those things are managed and operated and facilitated through that administrative support. And so comprehensively, all of those things work together to build that homeschool relationship. And again, it's not to say that other roles are not important, because we all are important. It's to say that leadership contributes to the building. It contributes to those relationships in so many ways that may not be as visible as what we see in that direct relationship with our teachers and support staff.
We do have another staffing question for you, Superintendent. Is it possible to give an incentive for teachers so some can leave, which will allow for younger educators to remain, lessening the salaries and providing newer methodologies to our students?
This is a good question, as we are asked this frequently in terms of different options that retirees may have. First, I'd like to say we value all of our teachers. We value the experience of our veteran teachers and those who are new to the profession. Teachers bring a variety of talents to our classrooms and at different levels. And specifically to the question regarding incentives, we have submitted retirement incentives to our unions. And so at this juncture, the incentives are on a voluntary basis, as people have to examine how that incentive will impact their retirement. And so over the next few weeks, we will be receiving information from those who select the retirement incentives.
We have two questions now related to district programs. Gwen?
Okay, so the first question is directed to Karen Beckdahl. With the reinstatement of the 4th grade instrumental program, only 0.5 position was given back, when in reality, it should be a 1.75. It was 3.5 positions lost when anticipating losing 2 grade levels. Shouldn't half of those positions come back with the return of 1 grade level?
Thank you for that question. As the superintendent has pointed out, we have had a decline in our enrollment, which means that we were really able to practice some scheduling efficiencies in our budget process. In the process of the regular spring scheduling that we do, we worked very carefully to allocate the music staff effectively and efficiently. We feel we've really created a schedule that can meet the instructional music needs of all students in grades 4 through 12 as a part of this process.
The next question is for the Assistant Superintendent for Secondary Instruction, Lori McKenna. The question is, with all the budget cuts, will they be cutting Jay Rotzi out of Albany High School? I hope not. It helps many, many kids become better human beings in this crazy world.
Mm-hmm.
So good morning, everyone. Thank you for the question. Albany High School's Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps program, also known as JROTC, is a program that focuses on leadership education training, leadership development, self-discipline, self-confidence, organizational skills, goal setting, physical fitness, and career exploration, all of which we value, is not included in the budget reductions for the 2021 school year. So simple answer is no, it will not be cut.
Okay, our final 2 questions in this portion of our meeting relate to the impact of COVID-19. Superintendent Adams, this comment and question are for you, and I'm going to take my time because it's a mouthful. In the budget hearing Thursday night, there was a question about if the district would take into consideration the potential issues of having younger children slated to be home while parents needed to be at work. Although I feel the answer given didn't answer the writer's question simply because of all the unknown, it did spark many thoughts of my own. Many parents are also teachers or staff members, both in our district but also out of district. This could cause greater conflicts for scheduling a staggered attendance approach. If this indeed happens, we hope that the district will be working with families, especially if families have more than one child that attends the same school, in order for that family to have the same days off to decrease their scheduling conundrum. Superintendent Adams stated that they are looking into schedules for the reopening that are best for families. Question: are parents on the reopening committee who can share their perspectives?
So thank you so very much. This is one of the most complicated pieces about reopening. Number one, the writer was absolutely accurate with regard to there are so many unknowns that a concrete answer as to what it's going to look like, we don't have that yet, and we are absolutely working on that. But I'll answer the question in the broader sense because there are no final decisions that have been made. The questions raised here are the questions that the committee will be addressing. We will develop various scenarios for the unknown because we would have plan A, plan B, plan C, and then based on any executive orders or guidelines from state education department, we would need to be able to move at a moment's notice with regard to which plan we would end up implementing. And then still knowing that with any plan that's implemented, once it's started, there will be modifications along the way because nothing is going to be perfect because again, we don't have a model for this. But specifically in answering the question about will parents be included in that, it is a part of the process. We will have parents and students and community members that will have opportunities to share their perspectives. This phase of the work right now is really dealing with some of those compliance pieces that are really operational. And as we move forward, and we will start layering in those opportunities for parent focus groups, student focus groups, community member focus groups, so that we can get that broad perspective of here are the guidelines that we have to follow. In other words, these are the non-negotiables. If sanitization and cleaning, et cetera, those are the non-negotiables. Now, how do we make this work for our students and our families? And we know that it won't be perfect for everyone, but we will also look to get all of the inputs so that we can get as near perfect as possible. So the short answer is yes, parents, students, and our community members will be involved at different levels to get their perspectives and input.
I want to remind people who are watching that all of the Albany City Schools administrators are here, as well as the school board members. So you can submit your questions right now to albanyschools.org/questions. Our last question submitted in advance also has to do with COVID and also goes to Superintendent Adams. At Thursday night's budget hearing, it was stated that there was a reopening committee for next fall. If there's a possibility that students are not returning to their school building 100% of the time next year, it poses an unsettling problem. If students who are not in the school building must attend a daycare facility, if any are available or are taking children because their parent is at work, when is learning going to happen for these kids? Late at night when parents get home from work? Will it be assumed that the daycare providers or facilities be responsible for teaching them remotely? How would this be equitable? I would like to know if these issues have been considered or will be considered moving forward. Superintendent.
So again, thank you very much for that question because it is something that we are also looking at. And so the short answer is yes, all of these questions that have been presented by this writer are questions that rest within the reopening committee. As shared previously, the committee is working on the framework which will be used moving forward, developing those details for a number of possibilities. I'll insert at this time that we do partner with our community-based organizations with regard to childcare and the programs that they deliver. As we move forward, based on what those ramifications are and what those criteria may be, we will have to coordinate with them based on whatever structure we're going to be in, where there may be the opportunity for our students to use their Chromebooks while they are in, with Boys and Girls Clubs, et cetera, and tie into our curriculum. And these are just possibilities. I'm just kind of, sharing some thoughts and ideas right now, but there have been no decisions made because we do have to coordinate with our outside agencies and our community agencies to see what their capabilities are. And if there are systemic barriers that prevent that, then that's where we have to work at higher levels with our state and local authorities to say, here's a barrier that our community organizations are having. What are some of the things that we can put in place to break down that barrier so that we have an equitable learning environment for all of our students. So we are investigating how state and local resources may be leveraged to assist what may happen in the various learning environments and what structures may need to be in place to address the numerous equity issues that we know our families need. And so just to give that writer a broader sense, this is not just something that is being addressed by the school district. It's being addressed by the New York State Education Department. It's being addressed by Capital Region BOCES, as well as through the governor's office. So at all levels, there are multiple tiers because there will be connections with our community partners, and what that looks like, that's what we're working on developing.
Thank you for that, Superintendent. We're going to, those were the questions that were sent in advance of this hearing. Now we're going to go through the additional live questions that participants have sent in during this meeting. And again, if you have any questions, you can submit them at albanyschools.org/questions. I just want to say again that there are many questions that sort of ask the same thing. So your questions have been grouped by category, and district staff will respond to every individual topic that's submitted. In the interest of time, if there are multiple questions asking about the same topic, we're going to read one of those questions and district staff will respond. So the first question that we have is, can people drop off other people's ballots at Academy Park, or is that not permitted? And I think that goes to Superintendent, Ann Savage, the president.
So thank you so much for the question, Susan. It's actually a wonderful segue to the next slide. So if folks don't mind, I will segue to the next slide, and then we can come back for additional questions if there are any. So this slide gives us an overall look at the voting process. We have mailed every registered voter in the City School District of Albany a ballot. The ballots are in the mail right now and should be arriving shortly. If you are registered to vote and didn't or don't receive a ballot, you should contact District Board Clerk Tanya Bowie at the number that's on the slide, 518-475-6015. I plead with our community to please wait until Wednesday before calling Ms. Bowie, because I haven't received my ballot yet. I know that the ballots are coming much more slowly than we had hoped. But if we all call her to find out where our ballot is, she'll have to answer 47,000 phone calls, and that is not likely to happen in a timely way. So please give her a couple more days. You can then return your ballot when you've filled it out, either by mail, the district pays the postage, you just put it back in the return envelope, or by hand by walking it down to to Academy Park, which is the district office. This is the question that the asker had asked. And yes, you can absolutely drop off as many ballots as you'd like. You can collect them from your neighbors so that only one person has to go down. I actually recommend that because of social distancing. We are providing a safe, secure, socially distant way to do this. And the fewer people who drop off ballots, the better. Of course, you only hand your ballot to someone you trust. You will have signed your ballot and sealed it and hand it to someone you trust to drop off. But if you have that level of trust with a friend or neighbor, you absolutely can do that. The hand delivery options are going to be weekdays from 9 to 5, starting on Monday. So that will give you all this coming week and the first 2 days of next week through to June 9th. The ballots do have to be received by June 9th at 5 p.m. This is really tricky because another election that's happening right now, which is the primary, I believe, although I'm not as familiar with their requirements, that it's the postmark that triggers the date. But for this election, per the executive order of the governor, we have to go by the postmark. So only ballots received after June 9th at 5 will be counted by June 9th at 5. The other thing I wanted to mention on this topic, because I've heard some people asking about this, if you have never voted absentee before, it feels a little confusing because you have to put your name on your ballot and then you send this envelope with your name on it with your vote inside. And it feels like, well, wait, aren't people going to know how I voted? Well, the way it works, and this is always how it works for absentee ballots, this is nothing new, is that the envelope with your name on it and the ballot are separated before anybody looks at your ballot. So the envelope is only used with your name on it, is only used to record the fact that you voted. The ballot itself, how you voted, is a completely separate thing, and they are separated before your ballot is looked at. This is just like when you vote in person and you come up to your the poll watcher and they hand you the book and you sign your name in the book to record that you voted. Then they hand you a ballot and you go someplace and vote in private. It's the same exact model. That you voted is why we need your name. That way we make sure nobody votes twice. But how you voted is totally separate. And I will also add that for those of you who are really interested in this topic, we will have video cameras on the process of tallying the ballots, and that will all be done in the public eye. And I know that those video links will be up shortly when we know exactly how that process will be done by video. But so that's a long answer to a short question, but I know I hit the important part, which is a great question. Can I drop off my neighbor's ballot? And the answer is yes. Last little bit, because people know that I like to share all of the information I have. The only thing you can't do is pick up a ballot for your friend. So if somebody does not get a ballot and they call Tanya on Wednesday or Thursday and say, help, I didn't get a ballot, Tanya will look them up and give them a ballot if they're entitled to one, because you have to be registered to vote. Unfortunately, in the City School District of Albany, that's the law. It's a little different than some of the surrounding towns. This is state law, nothing we have control over. And if you're entitled to a ballot, you'll get one if it doesn't come by mail, but you can't pick up somebody else's ballot. You can deliver their ballot, but you can't pick it up. That's my spiel on the voting process. And now I return it to the moderators for any other questions we have.
Okay, so it looks like that was the only additional question that we have for this morning. So this concludes the Q&A portion of our meeting.
I think we do have one more.
Do you?
Okay. Yeah. And it's how are everyday building subs affected for each school? And the superintendent can probably answer that one.
So this is one of the areas that we are working on. Thank you so very much, because even though, for example, now we're in an online environment, classes still need to be covered. But we are in the process for the fall of working on what that guidance would be with regard to building subs and what their roles are going to be. Because even in an online environment, teachers may get sick and someone may need to cover a class. And so we're still looking at what those guidelines are as we move forward.
Okay, thank you. So on behalf of the school district, we would like to thank everyone who submitted questions for today's meeting. Please know that even if your specific question was not read live during the meeting, district staff did address all subjects that you asked about. I would also like to thank everyone who logged in to watch the meeting. Your participation is vital and welcome. I now would like to invite President Savage back to provide the wrap-up.
So I did part of my wrap-up remarks already, which is really a strong encouragement to my community to come out and vote. It's really important that we vote and share our thoughts by voting on this process. And if you have any questions at all about how to vote, my personal cell phone number is on the district's website. And also Ms. Bowie's number is available to you as well. We will answer your questions to make sure that you can vote. If you have want more information about the budget itself, there are many, many, many ways you can access that information. Here are just a couple of them. The budget newsletter that the district does and is mailed to every single household in Albany, registered voters and non-registered voters, is available at the link here, albanyschools.org/communication/publications, and you'll just need to go to the budget newsletter for this year. If you are a real numbers person, you can look at the line-by-line budget, and that is available at albanyschools.org/business/budget. They're also, and this one's not on here, but if you just Google it, the Times Union did a very nice article summarizing the budget as well. There's one more budget town hall meeting next Saturday at 10. And I think this was not formally announced before. I can't remember if we were able to put this up on the slide on Thursday, but I'm very pleased to say that we will have a Board of Education Candidates Forum this coming Wednesday, June 3rd at 6. And I'm really looking forward to getting an opportunity to get to know the other candidates as well as I know Mr. Elmiyawi. And with that, I just exhort my community to please vote. Voting is really important, and your vote on your school budget vote is probably the most important vote you have, because usually it's the lowest turnout. So your vote is a bigger percentage of all the votes for your school budget vote than for any other vote you have access to. Thanks again to Ms. Arbetter and Ms. Pope for being here with us.
It's been
And
a
if
pleasure.
anybody else
Thank
has
you.
some closing remarks, I appreciate it. All right. Thanks so much, everyone. We'll see you on next Saturday, if not before.